version 4.1 is upon us and so are the character banners. With the hype of new characters coming up soon, we are faced with the banners on the first phase. Hello everyone and welcome to another video, and this time around I'll be giving my personal 2 cents on whether you should pull for Neuvillette or Hu Tao. Our newest 5-star Hydro Catalyst character, Neuvillette, is the Udex of Fontaine, aka the judge who oversees all trials in the Opera Epiclass. He is featured as a charge attack damage dealer who stays on field. Both his elemental skill and burst generates these things called the source water droplets, which can be absorbed by Neuvillette to accelerate the formation of his charge attack. Whenever his charge attack hits, it will drain Neuvillette's HP, but absorbing these source water droplets while he is ramping up his charge attack will heal him. We have seen this HP drain and heal mechanic with Linny, so very likely Neuvillette's kit was made to work with the Marehos Sea Hunter artifact in mind. His charge attacks does more damage the more HP he possesses. So what do I think about him? On first glance, he's a very cool looking character. He's the first character whose ability shoots a literal giant laser, so that in its own already makes him pretty cool. And being a Hydro character, it's very likely that his spot in the meta is secured one way or another, because we all know that Hydro characters are busted. And I think his damage personally is going to be good, not outstanding, nothing crazy of the sort, nothing game breaking, just plain good. And his Hydro application is very likely going to be decent enough to make certain Hydro-dependent teams work. Hyper Bloom is one of the examples, but the downside is that he would have to compete with other existing characters for that role, such as Tartaglia or Ayato. Now, the biggest question that I would have is that, can he get staggered out of his charge attack animation? And number 2 would be, what would his best team be? So I can definitely see a possibility where you may need Zhongli just to maintain his damage uptime, just to prevent him from getting interrupted mid-charge attack, but we'll have to see about that when the time comes. For his best team, his situation kind of reminds me of Deya back in release. So nowadays, most people run the Deya Mono Pyro team because it has Kazuha, Bennett, and Shangling in the team, so the overall damage output would be decent. But does anyone remember upon release when people were running Deya in a Vape team for testing? So the team uses the exact same members as the Mono Pyro team, except Shangling was replaced with Mona due to the damage buff that she can provide from her burst and the Hydro application of her skill. Since his main damage source is his charge attacks, there are a lot of off-field DPS whose abilities only trigger from normal attacks, such as Xingqiu and Toma, so it would be quite interesting to see what his teams would turn out to be. So whether he's worth pulling or not, that is entirely up for you to decide with the information that I've presented based on his playstyle or his kit. Personally, I would recommend people to wait until the new version comes out and try him out in the trial run. As for me, I won't be pulling for him for certain reasons that you will come to understand when the time comes. Now let us move on to the second character. So, our beloved Wangsheng Funeral Parlor director makes another return, and somehow it's not during Lantern Rite. Wow! Hu Tao is a character that was released back in version 1.3 where she has a very high single target damage, of which her playstyle revolves around her charge attack, just like Neuvillette. Her elemental skill infuses her Polam with Pyro, drains her current HP, and converts a portion of her max HP into attack. Her elemental burst hits enemies in a small AoE, of which it heals Hu Tao based on how many enemies hit. The damage and the regeneration of the burst is increased if her health is below 50%. So generally for constellations, her best ones are C1 and C6, and it's generally not worth to go for Constellation 6 unless your wallet is big enough. So C1 makes it so that her charge attacks doesn't consume any more stamina, which allows you to perform dash cancels reliably without really losing too much stamina overall. So the fun fact about Hu Tao is that her regular dash is actually quite unique because it actually removes her hitbox in that moment. And this allows her to bypass certain abilities, such as the Mirror Maiden's Cage. Constellation 6 turns her more towards a burst new character, since that's what most of the whales do nowadays, but memes aside, C6 basically allows you to focus on building crit damage, and to be honest, that is more reliant on your artifact luck rather than the actual character, so I generally think C6 is not that worth it. So, Hu Tao has been around since the olden days of Genshin and is still one of the best on-field DPS characters in the game. With how busted Staff of Homa is, any Hu Tao banner is bound to do well due to how strong and beloved she is by the community. She has multiple good teams, but one of her best teams is the Hu Tao Vape team with double Hydro. So generally, people would run Xingqiu and Yelan to benefit from the HP buff from Hydro Resonance. The flex slot or the last slot could literally be anyone, but generally Zhongli is the comfiest choice since his shield can actually take advantage of the HP buff, of which it becomes stronger. As someone who has a triple crown C1 R1 Hu Tao, she has been my go-to character for any sort of difficult content that the game has to offer. While I personally don't use her much nowadays simply because of how strong she is, Hu Tao will always be my go-to character if the Abyss gets a little bit too difficult. So a fun fact about Hu Tao's banner is that she will always have Xingqiu rated up because he is her intended support, just like how Goro will always be paired with Ito or Faruzan with Wanderer. To be honest, I don't really have much things to say about her. I think she's just a great character in so many different aspects, and I feel like she would be worth pulling if she's the kind of character that you are into and she has a playstyle that you would really like. I would say the only downside about Hu Tao is probably playing her at Constellation 0. So playing C0 Hu Tao will be a little bit annoying if you want to do this thing called jump cancels in order to maximize your damage. So jump cancel is a tag for Hu Tao of which you want to jump after your charge attack has done its damage before the animation is completed. This allows her to perform more charge attacks without being locked into the animation. However, I can see why doing this may be unfun to some people. Personally, I never really got the chance to try C0 Hu Tao since I got her in her very first rerun alongside Constellation 1, so I can't say much about this. Perseid Ethereal here, just wanted to let you know that it's not necessary for you to do jump cancels. You can still do dash cancels, so play however you want with charge attacks, as long as you are having fun and as long as you're kind of fine with it. So yeah, right, back to the video. But aside from that, her weapon options are quite varied. The Staff of Homa may be her best option, but Cyno's weapon, the Staff of Scarlet Sands, isn't actually that far behind. Other weapon options would include something like the Primordial Jade Wing Spear. As for the 4-star options, a High Refinement Dragon's Bane performs pretty well compared to the other options, and I would argue it would probably be one of the best 4-star options for Hu Tao. And if you have some cash to spare, both the Deathmatch and the Ballad of the Fjords from the Battle Pass are also decent options. While I don't really have the Ballad of the Fjords, I do intend to get it in version 4.1 and perform a series of tests, especially on Hu Tao. Overall, it completely depends on which character you're interested in. So maybe you want Hu Tao because you like her and you miss her previous reruns or her previous banners, or maybe you would want Neuvillette because he looks really cool and he looks kind of fun to play, or maybe you already have Hu Tao and you just want to pull for Neuvillette because you like him or you just want to try him out. And of course, the last possibility is that you've saved up so much Primo Gems that you may as well go for both Neuvillette or Hu Tao. But regardless of what choice you make, I wish you the best of luck in your wishes, and I hope this video helped you in making your decision. So that does it for now. Give it a like if you found this video helpful, subscribe for more content, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.